I'm here. Can you hear me? Yes.
Reading myself up here.
Oh, that's okay. I hear ya. And Ann, no, gotta push.
Oh, I need to now.
You're up now. So I think we're ready.
Okay.
Okay, you can continue to eat. That's perfectly fine. I call this meeting of the Greenville Independent School District Board of Trustees to order on March the 16th, 2021 at 5:31 p.m. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. And let the record show that 5 trustees are present. Mrs. Cruz and Mrs. Stevens are unable to be here tonight. Okay. Due to health and safety concerns related to COVID-19 coronavirus, this meeting will be conducted by video conference or telephone call. At least a quorum of the board will be participating by video conference or telephone attached to this online notice. Members of the public who desire to address the board regarding an item on this agenda or non-agenda items when applicable must send their full name, address, and comments to comments@greenvilleisd.com. These comments will be read during the public comment sections of the meeting. The public may send their comments up until 5:30 on Tuesdays, the day of the meeting, and the written comments will be read verbatim to the board at the public comment section of the agenda. Okay. Now, Sharon, it's now 5:33. Bonk. Okay. Tonight's, oh shoot, this is too small and I can't see it. It was great big and now it's shrunk down. Let me see if I need to be able to read this over here. Okay. It was fine when I started reading this, but okay, whoops. We're getting some technical assistance here. Well, usually it's half is the agenda, so I can read it like this, and then this other part is what comes from technology. No. There. I mean, that's pretty big as long as I can read it and keep up with what's coming next. So, okay. Yeah, that's workable. Yeah. Okay, tonight our invocation will be given by Pastor John Schuff from Calvary Chapel Church, and the Pledge of Allegiance. We're waiting to see. This should be good by Miss Beams and Miss Benton's pre-K class at LP Waters Early Childhood Center. Can we stand for the invocation and the pledge?
Hey guys, I want to thank you so much for asking me to do this. It's really cool to me. What's important to me, among many things, would be how our students are dealt with. So, couldn't be more honored. So with that said, let's pray. Father, we do thank you for this time. Lord, we ask for your direction, your guidance. Lord, that your will would come through. Lord, as all the decisions are made for for these students, for the things that will impact their lives, the things that will make the difference. Lord, we just ask that you would guide the hands, the hearts, and make the directions perfect, proper, and right. Lord, as these people come together and they try to make the right decisions, just make it so that they have confidence in the right decision. Not that they're making the right decision, but they have confidence in the proper decision, Lord, so that all things can be amazing. And Lord, that you would be the one who gets the glory and the honor and the praise for all these things. So Lord, be part of this meeting, cause it to go well, and Lord, be the light in our lives. We thank you, Lord. We praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. First up for tonight's meeting is recognition of the Dreamers from Carver Elementary.
Yes, for this portion of the agenda, I would like to call Helen Williams, please.
Thank you. President Stafford, Dr. Liggins, and members of the board. This evening we are recognizing a very special group of students from Carver Elementary. They are the Dreamers. And here to tell us a little bit about the Dreamers is the fourth grade bilingual math and science teacher, Crystal Rios, who leads them. And I see that Crystal has joined the meeting. Tell us a little bit about the Dreamers, Ms. Rios.
Hi everyone, my name is Ms. Rios, Crystal Rios, but the main reason I started the organization is I think something that we need to remember, even we're going through the pandemic and I know we're stressed as teachers, so are the students, and I think it really hit home when one of the students, I do after school tutoring, and I had to drop her off at home because she didn't have a ride. I got parents' permission, and while I was taking her home, I was like, so how's, you do anything fun outside of school? And as soon as I asked that, she started breaking down. And she said ever since the pandemic, she hasn't been able to go out, spend time with friends, and that's something that a big impact on their social life as well as school life. So as soon as that happened, I was like, I wanted to do something not just focused on being fun, but as well as engaging, leadership-wise, team building skills, because they're at their age where they're fourth graders, they're probably fifth graders, and then soon sixth graders, and that's like a really tough stage. So if we've all been through sixth grade, yeah, I know we remember those days. But so we do, after school, we'll do activities that focus on their leadership and team bonding, and but that was my main goal, is to do something memorable for them, because as just like us, they're going through the pandemic as well.
Could you tell us, Ms. Rios, what the acronym stands for?
So the D stands for dedication. The R stands for, hold on. So I'm going to be honest, Ms. Wilson asked me last minute, she's like, hey, because I started the organization around December, and I never really gave it a name. So I was just like, I'll give it a name later, and now it's March. And Ms. Wilson asked me last minute, she's like, hey, you're about to be recognized. What is the girl group name? Because I literally tell the girls, girl group, come to my class after school. And I was like, can I do Dream Girls? And she told me that someone already does that, like someone in the Greenville community does that. So I was like, I'll do Dreamers. But for now, I'll probably change it later. But Dreamers, the D stands for dedicated, responsible, educated, attitude, because we talk about attitude a lot, and motivated. And something is, one of the requirements is, if, for example, if one of the girls are failing, and I explain this to other students, I know not all subjects are for us, like math wasn't my best subject, I require them also come to at least one of the tutorings for math, and you can start coming to the meetings again and to show us that you care. So it's also mixed with academics.
Very good. And were two of your students able to join us this evening?
Yes, so the Zoom is blocked, I guess, for the GISD school computers now. So I have them with me right now.
Great. Please introduce them.
Okay. You want to go first?
Hello, I'm Jocelyn, and D.R.E.A.M.E.R.S has taught me how to work with other girls that are unique from the inside and out. The program has helped me with my confidence and leadership skills. My favorite activity is when we go to we did in Valentine's goodie bags, and as a team we work together to assign tasks and work together to complete those tasks. We used our communication skills to accomplish this goal. And this is important thing. The important thing is we don't care about differences. It's the inside that matters most. It is not the outside that makes you beautiful. It's the inside. And it doesn't matter who you are. We all have beauty in our body.
Do you want me to? Do you want me to?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Camilla. The thing about D.R.E.A.M.E.R.S is an organization that taught me how to be dedicated, responsible, educated, attitude, and motivated. It has taught me how to be a leader and work together as a team together activities that we do after school. My favorite activity that we've done in D.R.E.A.M.E.R.S is when we did our first fundraiser. The money we made, we used to buy canned food and created goodie bags to donate to fish. Eventually, we are going to personally give it to the community.
Good job, girls. I appreciate what you had to say. I'm sure this is going to help you succeed through high school and way beyond.
Let's give the Dreamers a hand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They're so nervous.
Oh, they did great.
I told them, I was like,
they did a great job.
I told them, I was like, hey, the school board wants to recognize y'all. And they're like, what? What do we do? What do we say? I was like, you can write what you want to say about the organization. And even their moms text me, they've been practicing all night.
Well, they did great. And that's a really great story about, how you were inspired by a child who told you that they didn't get to do a lot of fun stuff anymore after school. So thank you for leading the Dreamers. And if we were in person, we would be embarrassing you and taking your picture. So they did terrific. Tell them they were very poised on Zoom.
Yes.
All right. And our next recognition is our March Hero of Hope.
Miss Shepherd is the Hero of Hope for Greenville ISD.
They are the reason why I want to get up every day and come here, because I feel like that I've got to be a bright spot in some of their lives, just like they're a bright spot in mine. I love teaching because it's my gift. They're my kids once they walk into the classroom, and they will always be my kids.
Miss Shepherd deserves the Hero of Hope Award because she is a true hero to not only the students in her class now, but the students she's had previous. She is energetic. She is encouraging her students. You're going to hear laughing. You're going to hear singing. You're going to hear reading. She teaches them how to be friends with each other, how to share, how to play on the playground. And so there's so many things that you see her doing that may not be teaching, reading, writing, or math, but is so critical to the forming of our students and developing them as citizens in Greenville.
She helps us learn, and she makes fun things for us to do. But she's nice. She gives me hugs in the morning.
Zane is our oldest, so him starting kindergarten is a whole new experience. You know, real school is different for us, and then starting it in a pandemic has been very interesting, and it's just reiterated the fact that I was not meant to be a teacher. We are just so thankful that we have someone who's willing to invest and pour herself into his education. But when I see him getting in the car happy every day and excited to tell me about something that's happened, I know that Miss Shepherd's doing a lot of good for them. She just is very inquisitive and lets them know that she cares about what they're saying to her. It's not just her just going through the motions. I can tell she's truly interested in what they have to say, and she makes it fun for him, and I know that he's learning.
We can do lots of fun activities.
We love Miss Shepherd, don't we?
Mm-hmm. It's nice to be a teacher. She helps me a lot.
Miss Shepherd's been wonderful this year, and she's gone above and beyond. It's just a trying time right now with the pandemic to really connect with students, but she's done that. She is so sweet to all the children, us and some of our friends that are in the class. They love her and they feel so special in her class. She sent them a letter on Thanksgiving saying how thankful she was for them. She got them personalized little Christmas gifts, and even whenever we've had to do virtual learning, she meets with them every morning, and she's so enthusiastic when she talks to them. But she just really goes above and beyond, makes every single child feel special, and so that just creates a very positive learning environment throughout all of this. So
when I come to school, I'm happy and excited. Miss Shepherd is nice to me. Miss Shepherd, you're my hero.
What a shock, but I needed this little bright spot today.
All right, let's give Tara Shepherd a big round of applause. And I believe she is with us on the Zoom. Miss Shepherd, would you like to say a word?
I just want to say thank you. I was shocked and now I'm in tears, but they are the reason why I come to school every day. They're just like my own. I want to treat them like I would want my own treated when they came through school. So thank you so much for this opportunity and to work for GISD. I just love it, and I'm glad I'm here.
Thank you. We're glad you're here too.
Thank you, Ms. Shepherd.
Okay. I think that's our all our recognitions for this month. Now we come to the time of open forum or public comment. Do we have any comments?
No, ma'am.
This month? Okay, thank you. Are there any comments from the any board members have anything they want to share? Hearing none. Oh,
Well,
do you? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Can everybody online see all the great artwork that's surrounding the room? We have some amazing talent at GISD. It's just all incredible. Very talented.
Yep, we certainly do. Maybe if they can't see it now, maybe someone would be able to walk around it after the meeting is over and put it online so they can see it. People can see it all. Okay, now to reports and discussion items. First is the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. For today's report, start out by recognizing some of our partners. L3Harris did a Read Across America with us. They shared conversations via Zoom with our kids at Crockett at KGJ, the second graders, and it was a national Read Across America initiative. And they also read books about Astro Girl and Rocket Says cleanup and really promoting a lot of girl power and girls in the STEM, as well as they gave copies of the book to each student that they worked with. We also had for Altrusa's Reading Rodeo, which they do annually. This year, of course, it had to be a little different. And so we all did, several people, adults throughout the community and the district, read individual books to different kids on video. If you can see in that middle picture, that's me reading a book. And well, they ended up actually giving away over 7,800 books for kids to take home and to be able to have. So we're really appreciative of Altrusa and the work they do. And many of you who've been in Greenville for a while may be familiar with Dr. Vance, who was the former director of the Flaming Flashes during the mid and late 60s. Well, she recently passed, and our GIF, our Education Foundation, made a special presentation in her honor and presented our current Flash director, Ms. Lori Butler, with a $5,000 grant. And so she'll be putting that to good work. And as always, we appreciate GIF and the work our parents and community do to support our classroom teachers. We also had a student featured in a magazine, an extremely talented student. This is Ms. Jenna Wade, and you'll see some of the art that you just mentioned, Ms. Woodruff, around the room is actually done by this particular student. But it caught the attention of a local magazine, and she was featured for all of her different types of art. One of the things I'm most impressed about her is that she not only is both an very talented artist, but also a very talented athlete. And to boot, she's an extremely bright student and one of our top performers. We also, a couple of weeks ago, GISD won over 20 awards for excellence in school communication. I actually had the opportunity of going to the award ceremony, and it was quite exciting for our names to kept being read over and over, and to go up and receive that honor. And it was with communication directors and departments throughout the state. And so we're very pleased that we're doing a great job in communicating with our stakeholders. And so I want to thank Helen Williams and her team for that as well. For athletics, powerlifting, 2 Lady Lions and 5 gentlemen Lions, I guess, qualified for state. We also had we finished up the district soccer, and the middle school will actually start soccer in April. As far as the track relays, though, will be this week at Cotton Ford, and those are, and then we'll have district meets coming up as well for both the middle and the high school. And then softball and baseball are currently playing right now. And so if you want to get out and see some of our students perform in athletics, please do so. There are lots of exciting things currently happening. Our fine arts updates, we had our GISD Line Pride Band students performed the UIL Ensemble and solo contest at Heath High School in Rockwall, and there were actually 9 soloists and 4 ensembles that earned first division ratings, with 17 students in total even advancing to the state level. So as always, we're proud to see our students represent us well as they go throughout those competitions, and it also speaks to the dedication and talent of their instructors and teachers as well. Another fine arts, we had 21 high school choir students who had first division ratings from the solo to ensemble competition at West Sunnyvale High School. So continuing to do well there as well. And finally, as was mentioned earlier, we are beginning Greenville ISD Art Around Town. This is something new we're doing. This, as we all are aware, we live in a community that really appreciates the arts. And so this idea actually came about to where we could we could put our art around town in different businesses and solicit some businesses for those different organizations throughout town, and they'll have a little yard sign that looks just like this and states that they have art around town. So if someone wants to go in, look at the art, and maybe patronize the establishment while there, they can do that as well. And these pieces there's 40 pieces in total that will be throughout. And I have a special surprise for the board. Whichever is your favorite piece, you can't have the original, but they will make a duplicate, and it'll be signed by the student that created it, and frame it and give it to you. So as you look around, see which one you like best, and one of them is yours. I almost feel like Oprah. All right. um, and that is all for my report at this time.
Thank you. Lots to be proud of. Whoops. The COVID, we have a COVID report.
Yes, really quickly. And of course, if you have further questions, you can always ask Noelle Bars, because I'll give you the extent of my knowledge, which was also provided by her to me. We have 12,574 with at least one dose of the vaccine here in Hunt County. That's about 13.64%, which is up significantly from our last board meeting. We also have 6,738 fully vaccinated individuals in Hunt County, which is about 7.3% of the population. And also up until today, we hadn't, since Snowmageddon, had any new positive cases in the district. Today we did have a case we found out later in the evening, so we hadn't been able to trace the contact tracing yet. But we've been doing very well with our cases, going down quite significantly. And still to have, it's been 3 weeks, and still to have one case in 3 weeks. We hadn't had one day without one case for a while, so it's really looking up for us. So we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully this pandemic will be over sooner than later. That is it for unless you have any questions for me or Nurse Bars. Mike.
Can you hear me now? How many teachers and staff members have been vaccinated?
We don't have that information yet. I'm just getting started gathering it, so we'll certainly have it by the next meeting.
Yeah, and we also had Wednesday of spring break. Hunt Regional had a day, unfortunate it was during our spring break, so not everyone was here, where they gave to all Hunt County educators were able to go in. We did have quite a few attend, but since we returned back from spring break yesterday, we haven't collected all of the data yet. And it appeared to be quite a few people in line that, from what I'm understanding, that had the Lion logo on their vehicles. So we think it was a pretty good number that did, but Ms. Bars will be collecting that data throughout this week. And as soon as we get it, I'll make sure to send it to you all.
Hey, was that just for teachers, or was that teachers and staff?
That's all staff,
Everybody.
all public school employees is how it's defined.
Cool. Okay, now we're on to finance, our favorite topic.
Yes, for this, I would like to call Sherry Dotson, our CFO.
Good evening, Dr. Liggins, President Stafford, and members of the board. Tonight, I'd like to present to you the 2021 budget update. First, we'll start out by talking about the revenues with the general fund. So currently we have collected about 80% of our projected revenues. So we've just completed 8 operating months. So we should be around 66%. So we're doing well there. Also with tax collections, we've already collected close to $24 million, which is about 97% collected right now. So revenues are looking great right now. Now let's look at our expenses for the general fund. So we currently have spent about 60% of what we budgeted, and we should be at about 66%. So we are running a little bit under on our expenditures right now. And the main thing I wanted to talk to you about tonight is our capital projects. So if you look at this slide here, all the projects that that you've approved right now, we have a little over $4 million that we're wanting to spend on capital projects, but our funding source, we only have a little over $3.5 million. So we don't have enough money to fund it. We're about $627,000 short. So a little bit of more information on the next slide. So we currently need the $627,390 to cover the current approved projects. We ended last year with a fund balance of over $17 million. Now, where we're at today with the fund balance, we did use $490,000 for the incentives, but that still is leaving us over $17 million in our fund balance, which is very healthy. We're financially sound. And then the last slide, I would like for you as a board to consider possibly moving $1 million from the general fund balance to capital projects. We're well within having our 3 months of operating costs and everything within the fund balance, but I just wanted us to start looking at that so that we can cover what we've already approved on capital projects. So this is kind of open for discussion. I won't be bringing anything till next month based off of your feedback tonight. So, any questions about any of this?
Could you, Shannon, go back to the capital project list so they can see that during the discussion?
I have a question about this right here. The bus driver thing, the garage thing.
Bays?
The bays? There's the bays, right? Let's say we want to add a little extra to the garage to finish the bays off over there. Can that, since she move that $1 million over there, would it cover a little, any of that right there? The additional?
It would have to come back to the board because the board approved what was to be done last month. But it would, if the board wanted to do a little bit more, that would have to come back before them because it was approved for that amount right there. But it would be moving the 1 million would give about 350 extra cushion. But there are some things that, and you'll hear more next Tuesday at the workshop. There's some, I mean, we're still experiencing quite a bit of water damage. We're still experiencing some things with that obviously we're hoping to be reimbursed by FEMA and possibly insurance, but we have to pay for it now up front as well. And then we have some fire code issues that the fire marshal is making us deal with due to some new fire code laws. And so the 350 cushion may already be not really a cushion, may be necessary.
So in that case, could she move more than $1 million over then to cover that, those things right? It goes over that the 300,000.
Well, we can move whatever the board suggested.
Because you're saying that you got other expenses coming up, though. That way she can up that $1 million to cover those expenses. You already have the number.
Well, we think the $1 million will cover all of them, but a lot of it we know we have to go out for bids and legally, and so we're estimating what we think it may cost. But at this point, until that happens, we think the $1 million's a very comfortable number.
Because that'll get us through this budget year and everything, and then next budget year, we can look at it again and see where we're at and move more money or whatever the
If
board
necessary,
decides to do.
yeah.
Is this including all of the roofing issues that we're still having?
Not LP Waters.
Not LP Waters, okay.
LP Waters has, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Anderson, chime in. LP Waters has the most simplest of roofs that we have. And so it will not be nearly as expensive as the high school, has a very specialized roof.
That is correct. It is a shingle roof and will be bid as such. In fact, right now that plan that ARMCO has approved is going before TASB, who is our insurer, to give their stamp of approval. As soon as we have that, we will put it up for bid. So I expect they take about 2 weeks starting next week. So I would think that we'd be able to put it up for bid first part of April or so, somewhere in that timeline. And then be able to bring to the board either at the April board meeting or maybe a special meeting after the April board meeting.
But we also think the million would cover that as well.
Yes, and there is some budget money, not enough to do all of it, but there is some budget money that's set aside for doing the roof, and I've saved it for that project when it came up. So there is some money that can help that out as well.
Okay. Do we feel like there's going to be any insurance reimbursement for that?
That's the plan.
Yeah, that's
we
the
have
plan.
but it's a closed session discussion.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. Well, it kind of looks like is the consensus to go ahead. We're not going to vote on it tonight, but does it look like we kind of have a consensus to work with to add the additional $1 million in order to get everything completed?
I don't think we have much choice in the matter myself.
Well, that's true when it comes to fire codes and stuff. They tell us what we're going to do. So, okay. Well, it looks like there is a consensus that this is something that needs to happen.
Okay, that sounds good. I will bring this back next month with a resolution for us to look at.
Okay, sounds good.
And I would like to state, and I know just for the record, we were extremely blessed when we went through our financial issues to get D.R.E.A.M.E.R.S and to have Sherry Dotson replace her. She has not skipped a beat and has been very responsible and very diligent with taking care of the taxpayers' funding. So thank you, Ms. Dotson, for all your work with our budget each and every day.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, next is the cancellation of election for District 5 and District 7.
Okay, Helen is having some issues, so I'm going to. Can you hear us, Helen? Are you there? She's on her
I'm
iPhone
here.
now. Okay, she's on her phone. Good.
I'm on my phone. So thank you. Got in just in time. Thanks, Shannon. So fortunately, we have 2 unopposed candidates for District 5, Mr. Rackley, and District 7, Mr. Livingston, which means that according to Secretary of State guidelines, we can cancel the election that was set for May 1st. And there's a little bit of paperwork involved in this, fairly simple. So all we need to do is have an order of cancellation, which we will then send in, and it will be posted on election day also at the polling places. It needs to be signed by the president and secretary and sealed with the GISD seal. And then the second bit of paperwork is the certification of unopposed candidates. And that just needs to be signed by the president and sealed. So just a little paperwork, but it is an action item that needs to be approved.
And Helen, could you speak to the difference in originally thinking one candidate had to run versus now
Yes,
being
sir.
able to cancel, please?
Yes, sir. So we did some research and worked with Mina Cook, who is now helping us with Hunt County. And we also consulted with the Secretary of State's office to be sure that it was not a problem to cancel the election. We were able to do it last time when we had unopposed candidates, and it is not required that that if you're unopposed, even if you're not an incumbent, your name does not have to appear on the ballot. So for both Mr. Rackley, whose name has appeared, and Mr. Livingston, who is running unopposed for the second time, these are the only steps that are needed.
Yay.
Yeah.
We save a little money.
Yes, save a
No-
little money.
No ad in the paper, no paying Hunt County voter administration. So that's good.
Okay.
So at this time, I think it'll be appropriate for a motion if you're so inclined.
I move to approve the cancellation of the election. Can y'all hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
you're fine.
I move to approve the cancellation of the election for places 5 and 7.
Okay, we have a motion on the matter. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, Tish has moved and Roger has seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those opposed, say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. Hearing none, the motion is approved 5-0.
Congratulations, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Many thanks.
Okay, yeah. Okay, next is, we need to consider approval of purchase over $50,000 for HVAC for Houston Ed Center.
As for this, I would call Dr. Anderson, please.
President Stafford, Dr. Liggins, and board members, good evening. This evening, I come before you to ask that you approve a purchase of over $50,000 that is for HVAC units for the Houston Education Center. This is money that has already been set aside by the board for this budget year, part of that 250 additional extra $1,000 that you set aside. But we are coming to ask you this evening to approve this purchase because it is a single purchase in excess of $50,000, and you're required by law to make an approval of that. This is with one of our current vendors. It would replace 5 units at Houston Education Center, some which are not functioning at this time, and others whose life expectancy was probably exceeded long ago. So while we have the crane out there, we're going to go ahead and replace those as well, if the board so sees fit. So it's the administration's recommendation that the board approve the purchase over $50,000 for an interlocal agreement to be able to put those HVAC units on HEC.
Do we know how much the total is going to be for that?
It is, I grabbed the copy that doesn't have it totaled out for me. Yes, I do. It's option 1. I think it's in your packet. There are 2 options listed on the sheet. It's option 1, which is $51,300. And these units, the reason we went with option 1 is, if you recall, we had the issue at T6 at the first of the year with the humidity in the rooms and having to have some mitigation done in those classrooms. Some of that was because HVAC units went down and caused the humidity level to rise. These are designed so that it reduces that humidity level, and if they go down, it has a set point built in so that it will keep a certain temperature in that room regardless, which is not what happens with some of those cheaper units. And so we would rather pay the money up front for a better unit than have to pay someone on the other side to go in and clean mold or mildew off the walls. And so that's what we're asking for.
Okay. So are we replacing all of the units?
It's not all of the units. It's the ones that are the oldest or causing the most issues. or that are already out. But it's about the amount of money they were expecting to spend at HEC when we presented the replacement plan to you last year in our workshop. It's a similar amount of money for what they were expecting to do in that phased in approach to replacing those units.
Okay.
And it also helps because while we already have a crane that we're paying for, we're able to go ahead and put more units up there than just replacing 1 or 2 units at a time.
Okay. We've heard the request. Board, what is your pleasure here?
I move that the board approve the interlocal purchasing agreement over $50,000 to replace HVAC systems as presented at Houston Education Center.
Okay.
Second.
Mike, Tish has made the motion and Mike has seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. Well, I guess I don't really need to, well, I will anyway. All those opposed, same sign. Seeing no hands come up, the motion is approved. Again, 5-0.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, next on our agenda is consider approval of waiver for bad weather closure in asynchronous/synchronous learning days.
Yes, for this section, I would like to call Sharon Booth.
Thank you, President Stafford, Superintendent Liggins, members of the board. Tonight, this waiver will be submitted in 2 phases, so I'll talk to it for a second in 2 phases. So we all know that the weather in Texas definitely changes every moment. In February, it proved us something we've never experienced before. But on February 11th and 12th, we switched to in-person learning. And then on February 22nd and 23rd, we switched to in-person learning, all because of the roads conditions were not conducive. And then the 22nd and 23rd was when we didn't have water that we didn't have to boil, so we couldn't cook or allow students and staff to use water. So those 4 days were changed into synchronous and asynchronous days. So that'll be one waiver that we're coming to you to ask to allow us to submit to TEA. The other waiver on February 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th is when ERCOT, the Energy Resource Commission, mandated rolling blackouts. And for this waiver, they are allowing us to have closed school without having to make up the minutes with documentation. So I have documentation from Mr. Falk that shows that we were not able to sustain our backup systems with the rolling happening like 20 minutes on, 11 minutes off. We just couldn't get our batteries to support that kind of load, and we had to bring down the system or else lose our data. And then I also have documentation from Chief Rodriguez that talked about the road conditions and the environment in Greenville that was not conducive to have people out and about. So we believe that we have documentation that will afford us approval not to have to make up those 5 teaching days that we were closed. With these 2 waiver submissions, we are further allowing us not to have to make April 2nd a bad weather makeup day, because there was no makeup day to be had since we had synchronous and asynchronous plan. So coincidentally, another plus to April 2nd, 1, it's Good Friday, and 2, that's the day that the Greenville staff gets to go back for their 2nd COVID vaccine. So it'll allow us, if you approve this waiver tonight for both the asynchronous and closed school, and the TEA approves once we submit it, and we can submit it tonight after board approval, that's the benefit of all the waivers that you would be approving tonight. Any questions?
And
You're on.
Got to push the button, yeah.
how'd you do that? Okay. All right. I, I just had a question to ask about. Could you explain to me, and I've seen these terms over and over again, what synchronous and asynchronous days are?
Sure, thanks for asking. They are two terms that we didn't even know out of our mouths till COVID hit us, right? So,
Yeah.
and this is how I remember it. So synchronous is like you're in sync. So you're at home, you're watching your teacher in the classroom teach. So everybody's online or in the classroom. So that's synchronous. Asynchronous is not having you're not online. So that's our kinder, first, and second graders. They're not online because they can't stay for 8 hours on the line so they're able to log in, watch their teacher teach math or reading or science, and then log off and do their work and then log back on. So it's not a 100% full-time online.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. It makes sense.
Thank you for asking.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other concerns? Okay. Is there a motion on this matter?
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the superintendent to submit a waiver to the Texas Education Agency on behalf of GISD, allowing February 11th, 12th, 22nd, and 23rd as asynchronous synchronous learning days and February 15th through the 19th to be recorded as district closed days.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second? Okay, so we have a motion by Mike and a second by Roger. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. And again, motion passes 5-0. Okay, discussion items, future action items that we need to just talk about.
Yes, for the first one, the consider approval of information security policy, I would like to call Shannon Fulp.
Good evening, President Stafford, Dr. Liggins, and members of the board. I bring tonight before you in your packet, you should have an information security policy. This is a local internal policy for Greenville ISD. It's not a board policy, but due to the content of the policy, I would like to have board approval on it. So we're not approving anything tonight. This would, I think, come up next week when we do our technology workshop. However, I just wanted to give an overview of what all is within that policy. So basically, that policy is giving the GISD cybersecurity coordinator, which is myself, the authority to design and implement any security policies to protect our data as well as our infrastructure. It also defines the roles and duties of the program at Greenville ISD. It establishes a district-wide approach for information security. It's going to outline the ways that we will protect the reputation of Greenville ISD concerning information security, as well as satisfy legal and ethical responsibilities concerning our networks and computer systems. It's also going to outline towards the end of that document any potential disciplinary action for violations to the information security standards of Greenville ISD. Just another kind of policy summary. We use, even currently, we use a layered approach of overlapping controls to help protect our resources. So we don't just have one, piece of software or one piece of hardware that we think is going to protect our district. We use many different approaches. And so this document helps to outline what some of that is. We also perform security reviews of all of our system and platforms, and we'll conduct those regularly. It outlines that in there as well. We do vulnerability and risk assessments on all of our systems. So we check them to see if the software is up to date, if there's any known vulnerabilities that come out, which they come out pretty much weekly. We get updates on that, and we check that with our systems to either update those systems as needed, or make sure that we don't have that system that has those sort of vulnerabilities. And then it also outlines that we will continue to educate our staff on the sensitivity of data, how to be alert when using our email and data systems, and proactively protect our information for both staff and students. So that's kind of the quick high-level overview of what that document does, but it's really just giving the authority to the cybersecurity coordinator to be able to write cybersecurity policy as needed for the district. Are there any questions?
Well, I have one. The policy that you write as it applies to students, would that also be included in next year's student handbook? Or is there already something in there that covers it?
There's quite a bit that's already in there because we've been somewhat updating that as we go, as new things come out that we have to update on. However, with this policy, whenever we get to a point where there is something that needs to be added for students, we will add that as needed. Which those items, if it's affecting anything that the board has to approve already, it'll just be inserted in whenever you guys have to approve that. So it's not trying to overstep any of those type of things, but anything that we do see as we're doing some of these security checks and things like that, we will add as needed, and you'll see those for approval as those come up.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Looks like you did a good job explaining it. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next, the second reading of DBA local policy.
Yes, for both the DBA local policy update and update affecting 116 affecting local policies. Those are the same as from those presented last month.
You're not on.
Yeah.
Thank you. For both B and C, the DBA local policy and the TASB update 116 affecting local policies, those are both presented to the board last month. According to board policy, there's 3 opportunities to discuss it if necessary before approving. So we don't have a presentation, but if you had any questions regarding those 2 that were discussed last month, we can answer them. If not, we can move on.
Thanks for printing out the revisions. That's very helpful.
Yes.
Guess we can move on.
Yeah.
Let's see. Consider approval of legal services for 2020 census redistricting.
Yes, this is a rather important matter that comes before the board only every 10 years. As America or the United States, we go through our census for the decade. And so move on, Shannon, please. As far as it impacts the school board, state and federal law requires that we, every 10 years, we actually take a look at the census data. And if the data shows, for example, in Greenville ISD, if it shows a deviation of 10% or more in any one of your individual single member districts, there needs to be a redrawing of the lines in order to adjust those districts. So early indications, obviously, is that we will be required to, we've had, especially in one side of town, extreme growth. So it is fully anticipated that we will have to redistrict. And if there is a deviation is found, there are a generic plan will need to be made up, which will basically even the population numbers between each of the 7 districts. And if there is a majority minority district, to ensure that that district, regardless of how it changed, remains majority minority. And those are all according to federal law. Next slide. So the board has two options. The board can appoint a redistricting advising committee, which is referred to as RAC, and that's made up of community members and representatives that the board can choose. And basically they will work with the school district's legal counsel and a demographer in order to draw a redistricting plan. Option two is that you don't have a RAC, and you work directly with the demographer yourselves to redraw the lines. And the new boundaries office will be in place for the May 2022 election. And so the board's responsible for making sure it's conducted properly. So in order to do this, I would recommend that Wash Gallego provides Wash Gallegos, which is an attorney firm. They provide a turnkey, so to speak, redistricting services, and they also provide the timeline. And although the actual data and analysis won't begin until official census data comes out, which is a little late this year due to COVID, they will still start the process to make sure that it runs as smooth as possible and ensure that everything is set up before the election in May of 2022. And so the fees that are, because we would be not adopting them as our attorneys, so we would be a non-retainer client, and these are the fees for their non-retainer clients. The demographic study is 10 to 15,000 regardless, and depending on the which attorneys we actually end up working with, they have different fees according to that. So it is anticipated overall that this will be a probably $25,000 to $30,000 venture, but it is something that is absolutely required by law that we must do. We don't necessarily have to work with Los Gallegos to do it, although I obviously highly recommend it since this is something they specialize in. So the requested motion I have for you, which will not come until next month, is to authorize me to contract with Los Gallegos as a non-retainer district to conduct the 2020 census predicting services for our district.
I understand the census data comes out in September. Is that correct?
Yes.
So they're going to have to hurry.
It will be a quick turnaround. Yes. You're not.
Now?
Yeah.
So with the option 1 and option 2 version, so when are we going to choose those options, today or the next meeting?
No, if you vote next meeting to have Los Gallegos do it, someone from Los Gallegos will actually come speak to the board when it's time and say the pros and cons of how that works. And then at that point, you can decide. But they'll give a lot more background because they obviously work with hundreds of districts throughout the state to do this. So they will be able to give you a lot more information as to what they recommend and what's best are the pros and cons of each, so you can decide what's necessarily best for our community.
Will they take into account the size? Walsh Gallegos, I know, deal with many of the bigger districts. Do they take into consideration the size of Greenville's GISD, the physical size of the?
As far as their fees or their work?
Both, as far as their fees, and if those fees, in fact,
yeah, well, the answer to the fees is no. They figure a problem in Greenville costs just as much as a problem in Dallas. So,
okay.
But as far as my understanding of it is, even currently, we have some larger geographical areas, but have smaller populations. So I think the 7, they really equalize the amount of voters in each area. So some could be much larger as far as their square mileage, but they'll have the same amount as a smaller um, geographical area with, and I say same amount, not equal, but similar amounts of voters.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking about, where the voters, not necessarily the square footage of each
Yes.
district. It's not, because right now our districts, my district, for instance, runs way back over there that I don't even know where they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It and the reason I highly recommend to have someone come in and facilitate it for us. First of all, they know what they're doing.
yeah,
And they have a team that's dedicated just to this now. But when you start redrawing lines, it very well could impact. You could live in an area that ends up no longer being area 1.
right.
And so it
Right.
really gets very sensitive, and I don't want to leave that. So,
Oh yeah,
so yeah. So
but yeah, it is.
yeah, you've gone through this a few times.
I have, yeah. And I think with this firm that you're
Oh,
talking
really?
about, yeah. But and it's always it really always is a touchy subject. I can remember one meeting after that when a person in the audience that was listening to us had to be escorted out with the police, um, you know, with police escort
Yeah.
in some ugly words. But
Yeah, that's why we want to call in the experts.
yes.
Yes.
You're still on me.
I said, man, close to me and Miss Woodrow live a street apart. The only thing separating her district from my district is the school. So we're right there.
So yeah, it gets, depending on where the growth is, it gets.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Okay. So we will be seeing this again next month. So
Yes.
given some thought and know that it's coming sooner or later, and it looks like sooner. Okay, next is the consent agenda, which includes the monthly financial report and board minutes for February 23rd and March the 1st. Does anyone want to pull one of those for any reason? Okay. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
I move
So
to approve
moved.
the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, I'll give you the second, Ann. So
Okay.
a motion by Roger and Ann seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Those opposed, same sign. Are you opposing?
No, I wasn't opposing. I was raising my hand when
Oh, okay.
well, I was-
Okay. I was
No.
gonna say, hey, all right, well, whatever, but all right. Okay. Okay. So that's again, a unanimous vote, 5-0. Okay, are there any open forum or public comments for non-agenda items?
I think he's already probably gotten off. Oh, there he goes. Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's all right. Okay, we could have some comments next month after what we just did. So,
Yep.
Okay, we need to go into closed session.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just, you want to take a quick break or just go right on? Okay.
Let's just go right now.
Okay. Board of Trustees, Trustees on March the 16th, 2021, beginning at 6:41, will convene in closed session in accordance with Texas Open Meeting Acts for the purpose of discussing items listed under the Texas Government Code 551, No final action, decisions, or votes will be taken while the board is in executive session. Texas Government Code section includes private consultation with the board's attorney, that's 551.071. 551.072, discussing purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. 551.073, discussing negotiated contracts for prospective gifts or donations. 551.074, discussing personnel or to hear complaints against personnel. 551.075, to confer with employees of the school district to receive information or to ask questions. 551.076, considering the deployment, specific occasions for, or implementations of security personnel devices. 551.082, considering discipline of a public school child or complaint or charge against personnel. 551.0821, considering non-disciplinary student-related matters. 551.083, considering the standards, guidelines, terms, or conditions the board will follow or will instruct its representatives to follow in consultation with representatives of employee groups. And 551.084, excluding witnesses from a hearing. Okay, we are now in closed session. Okay, we ready? Yep. Okay. The board is now out of closed session at 7:04 on March 16th, 2021. There is one action or one item that needs action. Board, what is your wish?
I move to approve the administration and other employee contracts as presented by the superintendent and the new hire personnel report as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mike. So we have a motion by Tish and a second by Mike. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Those opposed, same sign. Motion is approved 5-0. Is there any other info that needs to come before the board? Guess we have a meeting next Tuesday night.
Next Tuesday, yes, next Tuesday night at 5:30. That's the 23rd, a workshop to discuss maintenance and operations and technology, update on the strategic plan goals.
What time did you say? 5:30.
Same time. Okay, if there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned.